Russia and Ukraine say they've struck a deal to halt military attacks in the Black Sea and to ensure safe navigation. But the Kremlin wants sanctions on several Russian export companies and shipping to be lifted. And Ukraine's presidents say there is no agreement on what action his country could take if Russia breaches the deal. David Blevins reports from DC.
Hard to analyse really, because we're trying to sift through the spin right now. There are so many words, many statements, 4 of them in fact, 2 from the White House, 1 related to its negotiations with Ukraine, 1 related to its negotiations with Russia. We've also got a readout from President Zelensky of Ukraine and a separate take on what's been going down from the Kremlin in Moscow. Now, there's very little difference in the 2 statements from the White House related to these negotiations, just swapping out the name of the president and country in each case, although in terms of the negotiation with Ukraine, they're pointing out their efforts to bring back prisoners, and particularly children who were taken into Russian-occupied territory. But there's a vast difference between the 2 statements being issued by Ukraine and by Russia. President Zelensky, for example, wants to focus on the potential use of third countries to implement and monitor the ceasefire. That suggests he not only doesn't trust Vladimir Putin, he doesn't trust Donald Trump either. Whereas, as you pointed out, Moscow is stressing the potential for the lifting of sanctions against companies exporting food and fertilizer. So, in fact, Moscow says there's going to be no ceasefire until those sanctions are lifted. Now, my take on that is that the big winner here is Vladimir Putin, because the detail around the ceasefires is vague, but the detail around the lifting of sanctions not so vague. So among all of those words, ultimately it's going to come down to the actions, whether or not this is implemented and monitored appropriately. It's progress, but it's nowhere near the breakthrough to end the war that Donald Trump promised within 24 hours of taking office.